What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Wonderful. Hope you had a wonderful Labor Day weekend, and were able to get some rest and eat some good food and spend some quality time with family and friends. We're going to be talking tonight about depression due to relationship issues, and if you've ever gone through difficult things in your relationship, or if you ever have found yourself dealing with depression as an after effect, if you will, of a messy breakup, then this conversation tonight is for you. And as always, I want you to talk to me through the chats. Let's have a conversation. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your comments. I welcome your questions so that we can make the most of this conversation. So there's a number of reasons why you might find yourself dealing with depression in your romantic relationship. Certainly being subjected to abuse, neglect, maltreatment can cause or lead to you demonstrating depressive symptoms. As I'm sure all of you are aware, infidelity is a huge contributing factor that not only can contribute to depressive symptoms, but it can also complicate issues with anger and feelings of betrayal and humiliation. I've often said that long distance relationships are not for me. I sucked at them. As I'm sure some of you do too. Don't leave me out here on an island by myself. Long distance relationships can be really hard when you think about members of the military or people who have long distance relationships because of their job taking them away on extensive travel, or maybe you're in the country because of your job, but the U.S. isn't home, but your partner is back at home holding down the fort. Certainly, long distance relationships can make it really difficult when it comes to having healthy and sustainable intimacy, affection, and certainly the distance can play a role in how effectively that you're able to communicate. And if any of those things are lacking, it can contribute to you feeling depressive symptoms. Another big one is if you're just in an unhealthy relationship, and you hear me talk about this week after week after week, the things that are necessary in order for you to have a happy, healthy, sustainable relationship. And let me just say this, because I think that it's so important, and I addressed it and had some really robust conversations with family members and friends over the past few days. Just because you're having relationship problems does not mean that your relationship is unhealthy. Their life is full of peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows, and there are times that life will bust us in the face and the head and the leg and the jaw and everything else with fast-pitch curveballs. But even in the midst of crises, or whatever it is adverse that may be going on in your relationship, just because you're experiencing difficult times in your relationship doesn't mean that you have to be argumentative and combative and nasty and hostile and disrespectful and mean and hateful and all of these things. So it is very much possible for you to have a healthy relationship even though you're going through difficult times in that relationship. But the unhealthy relationships have the ability to really contribute to some serious depressive symptoms. If you find yourself in a situation where your partner is controlling or overbearing or domineering, or your partner is insulting, or your partner because your partner is not doing what they're supposed to do. There's a constant imbalance in the relationship. There's a number of reasons that can lead to the relationship being unhealthy, but you have to be able to put your finger on the pulse of that, because you hear me say it all the time, you cannot fix, you cannot heal what you are unwilling to acknowledge, and you have to be able to acknowledge it so that you can confront it, so that you can heal it. Another major contributing factor, and I see this one a lot as a couple marriage and family therapist, is unresolved trauma. And when you have unresolved trauma, that in other words, you or your partner comes into the relationship with an amount of unresolved baggage because of traumatic experiences that haven't been appropriately dealt with. Oftentimes, your partner may be dealing with your depressive symptoms, but what's contributing to your depressive symptoms actually has nothing to do directly with your relationship. But because you came in with this baggage, and then life is happening the way life does, and you're going through some of the normal challenges that most of us go through in our relationships, you find yourself becoming more depressed and more conflicted because you had all this unresolved trauma that is being exacerbated by the challenges that you're experiencing in your relationship, and that can lead to some pretty pronounced depressive symptoms. You have things like conflicting goals. Y'all can't agree on much of anything. It might be, quite frankly, Scarlett, for you old heads that know, that's what going with the wind, right? You're not compatible. You're not compatible, and you may have come into the relationship believing that you were compatible for any number of reasons, just to get deeper into the relationship to find out that, you know what, this relationship dynamic is not what I thought it was, and in actuality we're more different than we are alike, and because of that there's this disjointedness in the relationship that can manufacture some depressive symptoms. For some of you, it just may be that you want to be in a relationship, but you've been hurt so many times, you have difficulty making a commitment, and you're torn. You're going through this internal turmoil because you want to stay, but you want to go. You're afraid of being hurt. You're not and you're waffling because you're dealing with all of the emotions that are present in the current relationship, but you've got all of this other stuff going on that hasn't been dealt with, and you find yourself, you hear me talk about the attachment styles all the time, you find yourself in this place of fearful avoidant where you're so afraid of commitment and intimacy that you're depressed because you just don't know what to do. You are stuck and you don't know how to get unstuck. And I'm going to talk about that and hopefully give you some tips that can help you get unstuck momentarily. And then one of the other things that can be really a major contributor to you experiencing depression in your relationships is changes in life, job loss, having to move, having children going off to college, all of these types of things, taking care of elderly parents, financial strain. The list goes on and on and on. Baby mama drama, baby daddy drama. The list goes on and on and on. And all of these things have the ability to put a lot of pressure on the relationship. And because you have all of this other stuff going on, which is putting strain on the relationship, you find yourself battling depressive symptoms because, quite frankly, you just don't know what to do with all of this raw emotion. So it can become this fluid exchange, right, where there's so much discord, there's so much stress, there's so much stuff going on in the relationship that the relationship becomes distressed, and because the relationship becomes distressed, it ends up impacting your emotional experiences and how you feel. So how do you go about managing the being in a relationship with someone who may be dealing with depression, one of the first things that I think that it's really important to emphasize is that and you hear me say this quite a bit, right? You have to be willing to create an emotionally safe space so that you can have the necessary conversations to be able to navigate through the signs of depression that you're seeing and the problems that are arising in the relationship. You can't just assume that the depressive symptoms are just because of what's going on in the relationship, particularly if in conversations in the beginning of the relationship you learned that the person has dealt with bouts of depression before. So, be careful with that. You don't want to take complete ownership of the fact that, the condition of the relationship is exacerbating somebody's depression. It's going to be really, really important to get clarity on what type of depression is it that the person is dealing with. Are they dealing with situational depression? Are they dealing with major depression? Are they dealing with clinical depression? Are they dealing with depression as part of the stages of the cycle of grief and loss? So there's a lot of different ways to look at depression, and there's a lot of different ways that it can show up in your romantic relationship, and you want to make sure that you're getting clarity on where it's coming from. In other words, you want to be able to put your finger on the pulse of what the root of the depression is, because it may just be that it was there, but what's going on in the relationship is just causing it to be more pronounced. You have to be able to speak openly and honestly with someone. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to a therapist right away. A big part of self-care is having a strong support system. Somebody said to me in a session earlier this week that we were talking about the importance of a support system, and the person was sharing with me that they didn't want to put their burdens on somebody else. And I'm going to explain it to you the way that I explained it to the person, and I don't want you to think that I'm trying to be morbid or insensitive, because I'm not. It's just an immutable fact. So this is what I said to the person. I said, first and foremost, you don't have a right to dictate to somebody else how they spend their time. In other words, it's up to a friend, a family member, a colleague, a soror, a frat brother, or whomever. It's up to those people that are intimately connected to you to decide how they want to be a support system for you. You don't get to decide, I don't want to burden them. And what I said that really hit home for the person, and it's extreme, so brace yourself, but what I said was, I don't think that you will be able to find a single solitary person on planet Earth who has lost a loved one to suicide who says, I'm so glad they didn't share their burdens with me. No. When people love you and care about you, they want to be there for you. They want to be able to encourage you and to bless you and to wrap their arms around you. Let them decide to what degree they're willing to be there for you. You don't get to decide that for them. Let them decide how they want to support you. And, they may be able to say, hey, I can't talk right now, but I can talk in a couple of hours, or I can't talk right now, but can we get together on Saturday, or whatever the case may be. Don't use, I don't want to be a burden to people, as an excuse to isolate yourself and to sit in the ick of your problems of life, because chances are the people that are most intimately connected to you, i.e. your partner, is going to be the person, or your children are going to be the people that deal with the brunt of your depressive symptoms and all of the other emotional issues that come along with unresolved depression. You want to be deliberate and intentional in getting greater clarity on what the warning signs are. And again, not allowing the relationship problems to be a scapegoat for the depressive symptoms. Yes, they can be a contributing factor, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the root of the depressive symptoms that the person has had. So you're going to need to do some intel, you're going to need to do some research, and you're going to need to be intentional about learning what the warning signs are. And then in a non-codependent way, you want to be able to have a conversation with your partner and be emotionally available, be emotionally present, undivided attention, not on your phone, not looking at the TV, not doing everything other than giving them your undivided attention. Ask your partner, how can I help you? How can I help you? And even though something that you may have said or done or engaged in may be contributing to those escalating depressive symptoms, that still doesn't mean that you're not in a position to be able to help your partner to deal with all of the things. If you're dealing with depression because of a really bad breakup, something that I want you to think about is, and I'm on the fence about this, but I'm going to sort of give you my perspective on it, and you can nibble on what you want and discard the rest. I think that it's really important when you're going through a difficult breakup and you're in that depressive stage of the cycle of grief and loss. I think that it's really important that you temper how much you're on social media. There's so much toxicity. There's so much drama. There's so much opportunity on social media to make you feel worse. You have to be very careful in what you're subjecting yourself to. If being honest, been there, done that. There are plenty of times in probably all of our lives where we went through a difficult breakup and we just wanted to sit in the ick of it for a minute. We wanted to have the pity party and we wanted to say all the things and do all the things and wah. But the bottom line is that social media definitely has the ability to complicate things when it comes to your ability to navigate through this, and you want to make sure that you're not doing more harm to yourself than good. The other one, and I say this laughing because, different people handle things differently. One of the clinical recommendations is you may want to put some distance between you and the person that hurt you. I have always said that and I don't mean this in a malicious way, but one of the best revenges that you can get on somebody that's hurt you is to let them see you win and win big. It's like I tell folks, don't ever let your ex see you looking raggedy. Don't ever let your ex see you looking all down and down. No, you put on your game face. Yes, you go front. You're going to put on your game face. You're going to put on your best everything. And you come in and you bring it in. For some people, that doesn't work. For some people, they need to be able to distance themselves and to provide distance from the ex, meaning that they need to avoid them. That's not my thing, but that may work for you. You have to set boundaries, folks. You have to set boundaries, because whether you're still in the relationship or the relationship has concluded, boundaries are your friend. You cannot have a healthy, fulfilling, and sustainable relationship without healthy boundaries. And in order for boundaries to be effective, you have to have consequences for breaking them. If you don't have consequences for breaking the boundaries, you might as well not have any boundaries. Porous? None? Rigid? No. You have to have healthy, firm boundaries and consequences for breaking them. You can meditate, you can exercise, you can talk about how you're doing, but it is so important to not allow yourself to isolate. You cannot isolate. When you're navigating the relationship, and these are going to be my final points, because I am actually going to finish at 7:30 tonight. I know y'all are shocked, but I am. I said I was going to start cutting down to 30 minutes. So what can you do? I want to give you some practical tips on a deeper level that I think will be really instrumental in helping you. Might shock you, but truth serum tonight. You have to decide how committed you are to remaining in the relationship. And you have to be honest. In other words, I don't want you to just sit in your depression and wallow in self-pity and, oh, your relationship is so bad and it's, she keeps doing this or he keeps doing that and all they do is, is nothing I do is good enough and all of those things. You don't have to do any of that. I'm going to walk you through the steps, and I live by this practice. I live by this practice. I want to teach you how to do a relationship cost-benefit analysis. And for the sake of tonight's talk, it's going to be based on a romantic relationship, but you can use this formula for any type of relationship, even your relationship with your job. Here's how it goes. You're going to ask yourself some key questions. Based upon the current state of your relationship, how important is it that things change so that it can be a stronger, healthier relationship? You're going to use a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not very important and 10 being highly important. How important is it that, based upon how things are right now, how important is it that things change so that the relationship can be stronger and healthier and better and more sustainable? But here's the thing. You got to answer that original question first, and that is you got to decide how committed you are to remaining in the relationship. And this cost-benefit analysis is going to help tease that out for you. The second question that you have to ask yourself is, how confident are you in your ability to make the necessary changes? Same thing. You're going to use a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not very confident and 10 being extremely confident. How confident are you in your ability to make the necessary changes? You don't have control over anybody else but yourself. You can't control your partner. You can only control you. And it takes 2 people to make a relationship work, so you can't blame and scapegoat and do all the things. You have to take responsibility and accountability for where you may be dropping the ball in the relationship, even if you weren't the one technically that messed it up. So how confident are you in making the necessary changes? Next question. What are the specific changes that need to be made for improvement? And you want to bullet point, and you want to be honest. You're not focused on your partner, you're focused on you. What are the specific changes that you need to make in order for the relationship to improve? Next question. What are the positive and negative benefits of staying in the relationship? And yes, there is such a thing as positive benefits. I like to use the example of drug addicts and alcoholics. They get high. It, to us on the outside looking in, there's nothing positive about it. But for somebody who wants to self-medicate, for somebody who I am Marky, you told me slow down. For somebody who wants to, I'm trying to finish by 7:30, girl. For somebody who wants to self-medicate and who doesn't want to deal with their presenting challenges, they are seeing a positive benefit because the substance use and abuse is allowing them to be able to tap out. That's what I mean by a negative benefit. So identify what are the positive and negative benefits of staying in the relationship, because they're there. Because if there wasn't a benefit, you'd have left. Next question. What is it costing you to remain in the relationship? Be specific. Try and create an exhaustive list. What is it costing you to remain in the relationship? Next question. What will it cost you to exit the relationship? And let me just define. When I say cost, I'm not just talking monetarily. I'm talking emotional, physical, financial, like all of the things, an exhaustive list of what the benefits and costs are. What are the benefits of exiting the relationship? What will it cost you to exit the relationship? What are the benefits of exiting the relationship? Are the last 2 questions. The second tip I want to give you is I want you to analyze. Everybody's analytical, and I say relationships are not intellectual exercises. They're relational exchange, but for the sake of this cost-benefit analysis, I want you to analyze the extent of love and caring that you have for your partner. And you got to be honest, and you got to be authentic. Don't allow fear of abandonment and fear of rejection to get in the way of your ability to think clearly. Dr. Pitts, what do you mean by that? I'm going to give you a perfect example. If you can say, and I mean it, if you can say, you know what, Dr. Pitts, I don't care. I mean, if he go, he go. If she goes, she goes. If she don't, she don't. Houston, we have a problem, because what that tells me is that you've tapped out. You've emotionally divorced your partner. When you get to that place of indifference where you're like, that's an indication that maybe some of that dismissive, avoidant, insecure attachment style is kicking in. But you got to be honest with yourself about the magnitude of love that you have for the person and how much you really care for them. If you're to the point where it's questionable, you got to pay attention to that. I've always said that if I lose respect for you, I'm flipping the switch. I'm going to flip the switch, because I'm not willing to be fully vested and vulnerable and transparent with someone who has repeatedly demonstrated to me that my feelings don't matter. And because it's clear to me that my feelings don't matter, why would I allow myself to be fully invested in loving you or caring about you? I don't wish you any harm. I'm just not giving you 100%. And if I'm not willing to give you 100%, that means that I don't need to be with you. Next point. You got to find out if there's other factors contributing to the depressed mood or symptoms that you're experiencing. In other words, remember I talked a moment ago about the unresolved trauma or whatever else it is that may be going on. A big problem that people run into in their relationships is they relationship hop. They don't give themselves an opportunity to heal before they jump into the next relationship. So you end up coming in with all of this unresolved baggage, possibly unresolved baggage from your childhood, unresolved baggage from previous relationships, unresolved baggage from your parents, your friends, and whomever else. And now you're in this relationship and stuff is going haywire and you're depressed, but all of your depression is not completely related to what's going on in your relationship. And you need to be able to differentiate that so that you can take the appropriate steps to deal with each based upon what their roots are. You have to take responsibility and accountability for your contribution to the relationship discord that may have resulted in your partner distancing themselves from you. So what do I mean by that? So if you're feeling rejected, which is leaving you to feel depressed, and you're feeling abandoned and rejected and all of these things, well, how did you get there? What happened that led your partner to distance themselves from you? Or what happened that led your partner to decide that, you know what, this relationship is no longer for me? You have to ask yourself these questions. It's not always what it's there. There's always going to be this exchange. You'll be hard pressed to find a situation where it's just one person to blame, because people can only do what we allow them to do. So even if the culpability that you have in the relationship problems is that you enabled your partner, that's on you. You got to own that. You can't just blame them for what they did. They did it because you allowed it. So hold yourself just as much accountable as you're holding them accountable. And then the last couple of points that I want to give you is you have to check yourself. I talk to you week after week after week about how important it is to look in the mirror and to take inventory of your reflection. What is going on with you? What is your junk? What is contributing to you having these personal deficiencies? What is contributing to you having these personal deficiencies that are leading to all of this discord and issues within your relationship? So when you check yourself, you have to identify, are you engaging in critical or angry outbursts or hostile comments related to the dissatisfaction that you have with your partner? You got to shut that down. You can't keep doing that thinking that it's okay. Like, find healthy ways to communicate what you have to say, here's the flip side of that coin. The truth does hurt sometimes. We have to take responsibility for not yielding it. You can't hear me because my cousins forgot that I'm on my live and they're blowing me up with FaceTime. So, and I don't know how to get the sound back, so I apologize. So you have to be able to check yourself and determine what behaviors you may be engaging in that are making things worse. And then the other thing that I want you to think about is prayer. For those of you that believe in prayer, for those of you that know the power of prayer and meditation, you can, attend a religious service, whatever your identified religion may be, attend that religious service. If it's helped you feel better in the past, chances are it may help you to feel better now. And then the last thing that I want to share with you is don't be embarrassed or ashamed or afraid to go to individual or couples therapy, or you can register for the virtual couples boot camp being held on Monday, September 23rd and Tuesday, September 24th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can register at drpittsrelationshipfix.com. I hope to see you there. The reason why going to therapy could be so beneficial for you is because you want to give yourself permission to have appropriate clinical assessments that can be helpful in determining what the true nature or severity of your depressive symptoms are. So those are the tips that I have for you tonight. Does anybody have any questions for me at all before I jump off? Otherwise, I will see you all next week, same time, same channel. Next week, we're going to talk about disillusionment and why. Hey, Joanna. We're going to talk about disillusionment in relationships and when you get to the point that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So that's what we're going to talk about. I hope this helps. Share with family and friends. Let folks know. I am Markia. You're asking me to send you the cost-benefit analysis questions? Is that what you're asking me for? Me a thumbs up if that's what you're talking about? Okay. Yep, definitely I can do that. That's all I have for you tonight, folks. You all have a great evening. I'll see you back next week. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, be kind, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.